So next year, I would like to hear from the ADB because Asia is the area where 80% of the water disaster is happening. So, Ms. Chakwin.
Thank you for this. I had been thinking as we were ticking down the row, oh, no one spoke from a development perspective, but there we go. So I am going to tick through some numbers for you, though, from the Asian region. And for us, water-related disasters, and by that I mean droughts, floods, and storms have cost the Asian Pacific region an estimated $270 billion over the last 6 years. They've accounted for 85% of the region's disasters, 23% of the related deaths, and 56% of the economic damage. Now, I think over the last 40 years, we've actually gotten quite good at, well, better at saving lives, but the economic losses due to water-related disasters have grown about 20 times. So I think that's something that we can also anticipate growing as climate change impacts the region. And for us, that means impacting on very big economies like China, India, Vietnam, the Philippines, Bangladesh. They remain at risk. Well, I don't want to compare numbers with the World Bank, but I did want to put this out there because it did strike me as something significant. That in the last 25 years, we've actually spent about, well, $14 billion in disaster-related support for countries. So if we think that we're going to need to scale up those kind of resources, I think we've got to think maybe on another conceptual scale. And this is what I've tried to think about as we were going down the list here. How to get it to a micro level, but then how to really get the resources that we need to make a difference in this area. And I'd have to say in that sense, we really will need to work with a lot of different partners to bring in the kind of scale that's needed in this area. And I have to mention we work quite a lot with Japan in this area already and probably will do more in the region going forward. The one thing that I'd like to bring in that I don't think I've heard, but someone can chip in if I'm repeating it, is creating a little more space and a little more ownership for the individual countries to develop their own national plans. I mean, as a development institution, what we can bring in is state-of-the-art technology. But what we're learning is that a lot of these countries, unless they do have the ownership of this disaster plan, it's actually not going to work. And I think it's what they're looking for. For example, in Thailand recently, Thailand didn't want anyone to come in and help them with just resources put in. What they wanted from us was actually to develop a platform, some sort of exchange of knowledge where they could actually quickly review the experiences of a lot of different countries and a lot of different approaches to see what they wanted to do. So in that sense, we helped set that up, and we set up very quickly for them. A second, and I think people have mentioned this in different ways, but it's an access to risk mapping. And while I agree with you, I don't think who can anticipate the scale of a disaster? I mean, it's an emergency, it's unanticipated. But what we can do is actually look at the risk patterns and look at what kind of information and what kind of technology we have, and maybe get better at that and provide better access to that information to our regional member countries. And finally, just one more, is to update the flood hazard maps. And I've seen in different countries that I've worked in that when a disaster strikes and that information is not updated, you run into, you're reaching into a bag for information and it's just not there. So that's it. It's one less tool in your toolbox to reach the affected people quickly. And I'll just like to end it there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You know, as you say, that scaling up is very, very important because, you know, disaster is everybody's problem. So, you know, we have to solve everybody's problem. That we have to reach everybody by scaling up the efforts. That is a very important point. And also, your, you know, ADB's effort is heading towards that. That is very much encouraging. Thank you very much for that.